I'm Gab, he's Jules. Blue skies over West London. Blue skies all around Europe. Some great goals in the Champions League, some big results. Real Madrid getting it done. How about that Rodrigo goal? And the Julian Alvarez goal,
Absolutely.
right? The Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Bayern handing Bayern Leverkusen their backsides. But this one, I think, is on bad luck. And Xabi Alonso making the bad luck worse.
Definitely.
Barcelona, 10 men, big win away.
Big win.
But we have to start at the Parc des Princes, in the City of Lights.
City of Lights and Love.
Paris Saint-Germain against Liverpool. Jules, you're supposed to make the sad face. Ha, ha, ha.
Oh, yeah, I'm a bit sad. I
think you can be sad for the results.
Yeah.
I think for what we saw on the pitch, I think Paris Saint-Germain demolished Liverpool.
Yeah.
And I would actually be concerned if I'm Arne Slot, because he made such a big deal in the build-up to this, the fact that, great, not great, but that we're not in the FA Cup. But this gives us a whole week to prepare. We couldn't have prepared properly, in only 2 days and so on. He had a whole week to prepare. I don't think his game plan worked, frankly, just by the sheer number of chances they conceded.
Yeah.
And also, I think, again, and I've said this before, Liverpool at this stage do not look as sharp, and they look tired. And it's understandable that you would look tired. And in the end, Harvey Elliott's goal late on with a mistake from Nuno Mendes sends them through. So it's a massive relief for Liverpool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Maybe also a warning sign.
Yeah, maybe. I just have never seen them being so dominated as they were on Wednesday night. I've never been them so unrecognizable as they were on Wednesday night. As I was saying on French radio and on TV, the PSG made them look. I think PSG forced them to play that way, obviously, but made them look ordinary at time and like a random Ligue 1 team coming to the Parc des Princes. Liverpool played last night like Angers do when they come to Paris, or Nantes, or Montpellier, when you play quite deep and you just get the ball. And the time wasting from very early on in the game was so unlike Liverpool. And I mean, Virgil van Dijk, the best defender in the world, just time wasting on a goal kick. I was like, really? Is that what you do? Like the long balls. And yeah, eventually the long ball worked on Darwin and then Harvey Elliott because of the PSG mistakes. But Liverpool really struggled. Salah struggled. The midfield struggled. And that's credit to PSG. It was an amazing performance. Their counter-pressing, everything apart from scoring was great. And then you had a goalkeeper in Alisson that was just on the best night of his life.
Yeah, Alisson, I think, said afterwards that this was his best game that he's ever played for Liverpool. I would tend to agree with that. I think I'm not going to criticize Slot for necessarily taking that approach, in the sense that we know this about him. He is more pragmatic than Jurgen Klopp was. I think that is an absolute strength for Liverpool, that he says, okay, well, it's two halves here, and we go here and we minimize the damage, or in this case, you go out, you actually win the game, and then we take it back. As long as we don't lose 3 or 4-0, we're confident we could turn anything around. It's very humble, I think, an approach. And I think it's also based on the fact that, and I wonder about this a little bit, I think it's based on the fact I think fatigue is definitely an issue for this in terms of sharpness. I think also mentally, I think it's hard to be so charged up when, in the league, you're slightly kind of maintaining your lead. That's done. Yeah, you've got the League Cup final. Other than that, the domestic season's over, right? So how do you then get G'd up again? It's always a transition. And but Matt, I am so happy for my man Kvaratskhelia as well.
Oh, what a game he had.
Because I know there are haters and doubters out there. But to go and to perform so quickly for Paris Saint-Germain, I think is impressive.
Very impressive. And we were told on Tuesday night that he would not start, that he would be on the bench and come on as a bit of a super sub, an impact player. And that Doué would start, and Doué has been doing so well that there was it would not have been a scandal if that had been the case. But instead, he started him. I guess the more one-on-one kind of winger type of skill set from Kvaratskhelia, maybe more than Doué, made a difference here. And I mean, he repaid really Luis Enrique for his trust, because that first half, especially the first hour, let's say, because then a bit like the whole PSG team, his intensity dropped a little bit. They could not really find the rhythm so much anymore, and ideas and creativity. But before that, I mean, he was unplayable. And the goal he scores, it's unfortunate. He's offside for a centimeter, but that's the rule. It's fine. But it was just outstanding.
A while back, you said, right now, and I think you were speaking like in that moment, Ousmane Dembélé is could be the best player.
Yeah, that's what l'équipe were like asking.
Obviously, then when that got picked up, people trolled you with Mohamed Salah. Again, based on last night, look, I think Mohamed Salah is a better footballer than Ousmane Dembélé.
I think he's a better footballer than anybody right now.
You know you're going to get abused from Messi and Ronaldo fans. Yeah,
well, I mean, you can't say don't give me the Messi and Ronaldo now compared to this version of Mo Salah.
But what I will say, last night, Salah had, I think, one of his worst performances for Liverpool I can remember.
Yeah.
Part of that is I think Nuno Mendes did a very good job on him.
Indeed.
Is this just Mendes being good, or do you see a potential dip in Salah? He seemed really angry when he came off and he was frustrated with himself.
It's really rare for him to come off as well. And he worked out because Harvey Elliott replaced him and scored 45 seconds later on his first touch. But it's really rare for Salah not to play the whole 90 minutes. He's still a player that needs the team to work for him to play well. It is not, and there are not many in the history of the game either who could just do things on their own, and Messi is obviously the best example of all. But even when the team didn't play well, Messi could just get the ball and do something so magical that it would make a difference that way. For Salah, he still needs the team around him to perform well,
to be in the right places.
Exactly. And this season we've seen him being a bit anonymous at times, but just popping up with the goal or the assist. But the team was still better than they were on Wednesday night when they were so under pressure, on the back foot. What was the game?
I'm blanking on the game it was, but it was a recent game. It might have been City where he had a goal and an assist.
Yeah, City.
But he didn't really do much outside of that.
The Spurs away.
Maybe it was Spurs away.
No. The City one, you're right. But Spurs away, the League Cup first leg, when Bergwijn scored, they lost 1-0. He started and just didn't have much of an impact, and Liverpool looked a bit off it. Not as much as on Wednesday in Paris, but looked a bit off it. And this is it. And as great as he's been this season, right now, as we've been saying, the best player in the big five leagues, no doubt. Still, you're still dependent on the collective around you. And if Trent is off like he was, if Gravenberch is not on a good day like he was, if the midfield is under pressure, if there's a bit of bad passing around, then you're struggling. And Nuno Mendes had, to be fair, his best game, one of his best games since he joined the club.
And we should point out that earlier in his career, Salah played on some teams, thinking of Roma, where he was just so fast and so devastating that, the scheme was, we'll defend in numbers and we'll lump it up into space and Salah will run onto it.
Yeah.
But that's not how Liverpool play.
No.
And so even when they break, and obviously he's got the pace, and even when they're more defensive, he needs the other pieces around him.
Absolutely.
Equally, though, Nuno Mendes, you said, it's best game.
Yeah.
And then he craps all over it with the Harvey Elliott thing. And for those who haven't seen the highlight, it felt as if, okay, I've worked my backside off against Mohamed Salah, against arguably the best player in Europe. And now this little curly-haired dweeb comes in. I got this, no problem. And then Harvey Elliott, within a minute, sneaks in behind him.
Yeah.
And the weird thing is, it looked as if he wasn't even trying to sprint him to catch him. I don't know if he would have caught him anyway. But he wasn't moving particularly fast.
No, I mean, he was too far behind anyway. It's a shame because it's almost the perfect game from a Nuno Mendes point of view.
Until that point.
It's almost the perfect game from Marquinhos, who is much more experienced than Nuno Mendes. And I think Nuno Mendes will learn a lot from that mistake. Marquinhos losing that 50-50 with Darwin Núñez.
Can we show a little bit of love for Darwin Núñez, who gets so much abuse? I thought he actually was maybe had the best game of any Liverpool player who's not Brazilian.
Yeah, I thought Curtis Jones coming on made a bit of a difference in that midfield that was outplayed. And I thought Jones would have come on at halftime. I was convinced. And then didn't see him warm up during the halftime break. For a Jota, for example.
So to go back to that kind of box.
Yeah. And what we saw at City, just to have another body in that midfield, because Gravenberch and McAllister just could not do it. They could not do it. And we said very often how important Gravenberch and McAllister are, and Szoboszlai to some extent, but are for the way this Liverpool team functions. And if they are outplayed by the opposition's midfield, whoever that opposition is, it's a struggle. I thought when Jones came on, you saw a bit of difference, and PSG were tiring too. But yeah, Darwin, Elliott, long ball. That's sometimes you just win by being the most simple
Right.
and direct.
And you win because of several mistakes on the other team.
Marquinhos, and you don't want to talk about Donnarumma, but
Gigio got a hand to it. But yes, I expect Gigio to save those. He also had the incident before when he collided with Darwin Nunez.
Yeah.
Where, okay, if you're old like me, you remember commentaries from like the 1980s or 1970s where everything was totally biased and one-sided to one team, right? It was really interesting because Donnarumma, you can hear him shouting in Italian to the referee. He's like, just call the foul and do your job, right?
Yeah.
To the referee. I mean, he felt like that was definitely a foul. On the English commentary, you get the whole like, well, he's entitled to go for the ball. It's a coming together. And first, I thought that was kind of comforting. I felt kind of like old school of like what European football like when I grew up, where people had totally different perspectives. But it occurred to me that back in the day, it would have been a case of, okay, maybe in England, people, it was rougher. People let challenges fly more. Maybe elsewhere they whistled more. I don't think that's necessarily the case today. There's still differences the way the game is officiated. But it was just straight up like, ex-pro saying he's entitled, which is one of the dumbest things. I honestly, like, there's things I don't like to hear. That is one of them.
Yeah.
Calling somebody a false nine just because he's not a guy who normally plays center forward. False nine is an approach to a position. It's not like if I put Saliba at center forward and I lump the balls to his head, it doesn't make Saliba a false nine. It makes him a center forward or a center back who's playing center forward. It doesn't become false nine has a very
I don't think people
thing.
call center back that you push on to play.
No, I'm mentioning Saliba, but we've heard it before.
Yeah.
Right? We've heard it. I remember when he tried Grealish at center forward, and Grealish just kind of sat in the box and waited. Just as 2 years ago, I think. Like, Grealish playing false nine. Like, no, it's not a false nine, right? Anyway, what a long digression. I want to wrap on kind of the broader Paris Saint-Germain because look, let's face it. We don't talk a lot of Ligue 1. We really only talk about Paris Saint-Germain when Nasser does something stupid, when they make a stupid signing, when there's chaos, which there's been plenty in the past. And the perception is, okay, well, they go and they beat up Ligue 1 because Ligue 1 is terrible. Although, again, I think we're kind of seeing, look at Lille, look at Brest earlier, that, Monaco, and they're not all bad all the time.
No, yeah.
And you still have to go and beat them. Can you talk a little bit, though, about the kind of Luis Enrique sort of project, if you will, where they opted to go for younger players, maybe more pliable players, more malleable players, more French players as well. Is this the money? It's not just a money-saving exercise, although I think there's probably that as well, but also kind of like a realization that maybe we're better off growing our stars rather than going the Messi, Neymar, Suarez.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the bling ultimately doesn't bring in enough money.
Yeah, exactly. And they wanted a team with more cohesion, which is what they have. I mean, the way they played yesterday on Wednesday night again, and as a PSG fan, like how proud we were when watching that and the performance. And I know in the end Liverpool won, and well done to them because they were under pressure and they didn't break and they still went for it. And even if it's a smash and grab, you deserve credit for it. But the way PSG played, the communion with the fans as well at the Parc des Princes, the fans are clearly feels a far stronger bond with this current team, young team that plays for each other, fights for each other, run for each other, more than even the Messi, Neymar and Mbappe era. It's something very special, I think, that they have. It's growing. This is a young team. We said that, one of the youngest in the Champions League. They will get better. The ambition was not to win the Champions League this season. I think everybody knew, Luis Enrique included, that this was a long shot because there was still a lot of things to put together at the start of the season for them to get to the optimum level that Luis Enrique wanted. But now they're not far. They're not far. It's, again, we said it, but Wednesday night was one of the best performance from a team collectively that we've seen all season in all our leagues, all the European competition, everything. If they can play like that all the time against top teams, inevitably they will compete for the Champions League next season, the one after, if they can keep this group together and improve it maybe in some positions. So it was very encouraging, as cruel as it felt at the end. Of course it was. If there was still so much positive, and it felt so encouraging to see the progress of this team. We've watched them since August. We've seen some struggles. We've seen some Champions League games where they were not good, where they created chances, could not take them, but still were not good collectively. And now look at where they are and the kind of performance they can put up against Liverpool is outstanding.
It is to some degree the Luis Enrique story of
Absolutely.
kind of building and being in charge. Now, I said this before, Lucho is a genius, but he is a flawed genius.
Yeah.
And sometimes his stuff ultimately doesn't work, or he becomes too intense, too unpleasant. This is kind of stuff that happened in the past. Right?
Yeah.
He is a genuinely weird man. There's nothing conventional, I think, about him. When it comes together, it's special.
Yeah.
And I think one big thing was also how, this season, when he dropped Dembélé, his fight against Colomwani to get rid of Colomwani after wanting to sign him, but that's another thing. That's maybe more of a Luis Campos thing. I don't know. And he won that, and he's been vindicated. Now he has Bayern. And by the way, you should know this off the top of your head. When you talk about identity with the local club and the fans, how many of these guys are actually Paris born and bred of the 11 who started yesterday?
Of the 11 that started yesterday, none.
Because it's a mindset, isn't it, being Paris born and bred, right?
Yeah.
That's the right answer.
It is a mindset, for sure.
All right, enough PSG, LFC. How about some quick hits instead?
Go, Gab.
Real Madrid beat Atletico 2-1 in their Champions League first leg. Jules, everything is still in the balance. I think Diego Simeone is pretty happy.
Yeah.
We did see some great goals.
We did the one from Rodrigo, and I think there's a bigger debate about if Rodrigo is very, very important, almost undroppable for this Real Madrid team.
You know my views on this.
I know your view on it. You can go on the ESPN website. We answer a question, you and me and Ogi, about Rodrigo, but still, it was a lovely goal. The response from Atletico and from Julian Alvarez with probably an even better one, maybe simply because it seems even further out and the angle is even tighter than the Rodrigo one. Not a great game, I thought.
No.
Not a good game, but then they're never really that great between them two because of the way they cancel each other out and the way they defend.
No, and I thought, it looked like it was a hybrid 4-4-2, 4-3-3 with Brahim Diaz almost often as like sort of the third midfielder.
Yeah.
Brahim Diaz, by the way, I thought was man of the match for Real Madrid. I know obviously Rodrigo's going to get the headlines, although Brahim also scored.
Yeah.
But the reality is, when we talk about sort of the control of midfield and stuff, they didn't have it with Tchouaméni. Camavinga, I thought, really struggled again.
Yeah.
And it just got a little bit better with Modric. But I think that's a bit of an issue for the return leg. This is still 1,000% in the balance. And I think it's going to be the pick of the return legs.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's no doubt. A rocky start, but then Inter cruise past Feyenoord 2-0 in Rotterdam and even miss a penalty along the way, Gab. How about the Tula partnership?
The Tula, yes.
Tula.
Is this the best partnership the best strike partnership in all
not many people play with the front
all
two,
of Milan. Yeah, I was going to say all of Milan, but yeah. Yes, it's true. Not many people play with a front two, and obviously people will say Grease and the Spider are better. I don't know. I think it was important though because Inter really banged up going into this. And I think he played it correctly with playing the guys generally who were fit, making allowances for the guys who were not fit, like Marcus Thuram.
Yeah.
Who from now on I will refer to as the greater Thuram.
The greater Thuram, okay.
The lesser Thuram, who scored on Monday night as well, by the way.
Yeah, lovely finish.
And Lautaro along the way becoming the Inter's all-time leading scorer in
Why
the
did
European
you not take
Cup.
the penalty? I was surprised. I was really assuming, maybe Zielinski was I'm not saying that Zielinski should not have taken it and maybe he was the penalty taker, but I just thought Lautaro would take it and...
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, and then we feel better about it. We should say this about Feyenoord and Robin van Persie.
His first game in charge, yeah.
They have the longest injury list in the history of mankind. So always bear that in mind.
Yeah.
Borussia Dortmund are held at home by Lille and your boy Bruno Genesio, who gives the other Mbappe his second ever first team start. This surprised me.
I surprised everybody. Nobody saw this one coming. And to be fair,
You didn't get them muddled or anything.
no, but and Ethan, he's a really lovely player, and I love him. I'm just not sure this was the game for him to get that start in the position where I don't think you make the most of his skill set and of his talent as well. And they did it for balance. They did it to be solid in midfield, because they pretty much played four number 8. Well, it's only 2 number 8s and 2 number 6s in that 4-man midfield, and then just Alisson and Jonathan David up front. So it was maybe not so a bit of a disservice to Ethan Mbappe, but when you draw 1-1 away at Dortmund in the Champions League last 16 and you're disappointed after, I think it tells you, one, that you've been good, so in the second half, and 2, that you were not far from being even better, and maybe Lille could have pushed a bit more and won that game. So quite promising before the second leg.
It also tells you, despite the 2 wins in Spain in the Bundesliga, Dortmund still have massive issues. Although Karim Adeyemi, nice goal.
Yeah, nice goal again, but their second half was horrendous. Aston Villa win 3-1 away at Bruges, but we're talking about an own goal and a late penalty for them. Gab, more a case of Villa being good or Bruges throwing it away?
100% Bruges throwing this away. Look, I said to them, you need luck, right? And and it doesn't just mean that you're lucky. You have to be ready to seize the luck and capitalize on it. And Villa did. And Unai Emery, I think, would have been fine with the draw and saying we'll beat them at home and whatever else. But yeah, don't let the scoreline fool you. Like,
definitely not.
They said draw written all over it.
But do you think we should expect more from Villa? Because you see the squad, you see the players they brought in January, and you see the performance in that game on Tuesday, and you think like, this is not good. They don't move the ball well. There's a lot of individual moments, but that collectively, and I'm like,
I think it is fair. I think what I would say to defend Emery, which is a weird position for me to be in, the injured guys, a lot of them have just only come back. And I think he hasn't had time necessarily to work with them and the newcomers, like Rashford and Asensio and Disasi. Jules, we're not done because we have more quick hits.
Yes.
No 5-4 this time as Benfica fall at home to 10-man Barcelona, 1-0. Jules, what did you learn?
Well, that Wojciech Szczesny is still pretty good at football. To start with. Yes, he's pretty good.
What a story. Out of football altogether until a few months ago.
I know. A few cigarettes there and then look at that. Put on a masterclass. Well, masterclass. He put on a very good performance against the Benfica team that I thought with 11 men against 10 still could have done more, should have done more.
They had the chances.
Probably. They had the chances, to be fair. And then in the end, a bad pass. It's a bit similar to, in a way, the PSG Liverpool game. One bad pass, Rafinha picks it up, very smart, great finish. Maybe Trubin, who had some really good saves as well in this game, but maybe Trubin could have done better on this one. And really, I don't see how Benfica can go away in Barcelona and turn this one over.
And win by a single goal? I think they can. I think it's going to be tough. But the key difference between Barcelona and Liverpool, obviously, Barcelona played, 73 minutes?
Yeah, Kubasi's red card.
With 10 minutes after Kubasi's red card. And it's funny because, look, I really love Kubasi. He's phenomenal, so young. But it struck me that about his tackle, right? It's like, oh, look, he just mistimed it. Unlucky, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I'm sorry. Even if he times the tackle correctly, the ball rolls across to the other Benfica player who's running along. So
it's not the right movement to do in the first place. Even if you make it clean, it's not the right move.
And it's now he's sent off for the return leg.
Yeah.
And I just wonder, like, guys, it's 180 minutes, right? Yeah, you made a mistake. Even if they score here, you're Barcelona, and I bet this is what Flick is telling him.
Yeah,
dude,
surely.
I expect more from you.
Yeah,
I don't care about this. There's no way you can win this. Just have the confidence. 180 minutes, we'll turn around, we'll beat them.
I agree, man. Bayern Munich destroyed Bayer Leverkusen 3-0 in Munich. Gab, does this mean the 8 points gap between them in the Bundesliga is justified?
So 2 answers. No, in the sense that these were 2 absolute gifts from Bayer Leverkusen, as was the Mukiele red card.
Yes,
Talk about people making stupid decisions.
Absolutely.
I mean, Kovar, whatever. He makes a mistake, but come on.
Yeah, I mean, Kovar should not have started anyway.
Which brings us to Xabi Alonso.
Yeah.
Yes, in the sense that, dude, I like the fact that you're different, you're a genius, you're brilliant. If this had been Pep Guardiola, we'd be sitting there saying like, oh, why is he overthinking it? Why is he playing idly up front? Why is he playing 3 million defensive midfielders and 4 center backs? I don't get it. Do you?
Me neither. I thought that was a complete wrong team to start in a game like this, away from home especially, maybe. And really, apart from the Frimpong chance earlier on, that Neuer comes out very quickly and saves it, they just had nothing.
There's great footage of Frimpong and Florian Wirtz on the bench, and they are so angry.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
Sticking with Bayern, Jules, multiple reports say the contract extension for Joshua Kimmich is now off the table. I kind of feel like this should be a bigger deal. Or is it just more sort of contract negotiations?
Yeah, I don't know. It might be a power play a bit from Bayern saying, oh, you don't want to sign this one. You want more money. We'll take this one out and you can leave on a free at the end of the season. I still don't think that Bayern Munich can really let him go. I know they can't say yes to any demands. And if he wants 100 million a year, that's not possible. And maybe they think he wants too much money. I think some of the reports say he wants 20 million a year. At 30 years old, that's a lot of money. No problem to tie him up to a long contract, to a decent contract. It would be a massive loss for them, and I can see why there are clubs already thinking, okay, if he's on the market, then why not?
I will make this very simple. Real Madrid, go get him. If he wants 20 million, that's fine. You're playing Luka Modric about that, and he's 1 million years old, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. He's going to move on, salary slot. You plug him in there. In a pinch, he can play right back. I mean, he can alternate with Valverde in terms of the people who don't want to play right back but will play right back. It gives you leverage over Trent in case you still want to go and get him because, look, we have another guy who can play this position. And you get the passer in midfield that you desperately need.
That's true.
This is such a no-brainer if he's serious.
Yeah, exactly. Peter Bosz gets boshed by Arsenal 7-1 in Eindhoven for PSV. Gab, this was an absolute horror show.
Yeah, so look, I want to say nice things about Arsenal because Ranieri was fantastic. Martin Odegaard's goal, how about that?
Pass.
Martin Odegaard's pass, yes. Yeah, sorry, the pass especially. But you can't take this seriously when you have a team that plays like this.
I thought Peter Bosz had moved on from that craziness.
The third goal. What is he thinking? And I think Arteta's left thinking, okay, I'm glad I don't have to deal with this again. Yeah. I can focus on the quarterfinals and move on. I don't think Arteta learned anything from this game either.
Definitely not.
Other than the fact that Thomas Partey needs to stop making stupid decisions at 3-0.
Yeah.
Staying with Arsenal, the Times reports that they are very close to appointing their new director of football to replace Edu. They had an actual casting call that included Real Sociedad's Roberto Labe, former Atletico Madrid executive Andrea Berta, Monaco's Thiago Scuro, and the god of gardening leave, Dan Ashworth. They also considered Jason Ato, the guy who's doing the job on an interim basis right now.
Yeah.
They're going to go with my boy Andrea Berta. They got to go with the Italian.
Yeah, and I think he's the front runner massively. He wants to go. They want to hire him. Different style to Edu, of course. In a short list that, as we mentioned when we were preparing for the show, of different profiles, different standing as well of sporting directors. Some younger, some older. Some have really proven track records. Others maybe not so much. And I think of all the names you mentioned, for me, for what he did at Atletico Madrid for 10 years or so with El Cholo, Berta is the best choice, really.
Obviously, Atletico Madrid, like an elephant in the room. Obviously, that is an Uncle George club. You want to make sure that he doesn't bring Uncle George with him. Or rather, if he does, Uncle George becomes somebody you do business with when you need to, not somebody who starts dictating things.
Exactly. FIFA have announced that they will give out $1 billion in prize money to participants in the Club World Cup in the summer in the US. That's more than twice the $440 million that was awarded at the Qatar World Cup for the countries who were there. Feels like a lot, Gab.
It does feel like a lot. By the way, it's completely... It's such a false comparison. I wrote it in your question not because you're making it. Because FIFA put it in the press release, and some people in the media who should know better is like, oh look, FIFA's so generous. This is less than the $50 million a club that they promised the clubs originally. The World Cup is not a comparison. It's total apples and oranges because the players who go to the World Cup don't actually have to be paid out of this amount, whereas the clubs do, and the clubs are giving up lucrative touring opportunities to do this. It's interesting. He's saying FIFA are not going to make a single penny off of it because overall the budget is $2 billion. $850 million of that will be costs. $150 million will go in solidarity payments to clubs who aren't there and FAs who aren't there, and then the rest will be divided along performance and appearance prizes. And it's going to be. They're obviously going to go in and skew it because, Jules, you can't have a situation where Auckland City FC they can't get the same appearance money as Manchester City, because it's gonna distort the system entirely. But amidst all the negativity, and there is a lot of negativity surrounding this, I go back to this. So you're generating money and you're redistributing it. Is that a bad thing?
No, and I think for clubs, and that's the appeal, I think 100 million if you win it, you can get 30 million.
That's TBD.
For some clubs, TBD, but probably around that, L'Equipe try to calculate it. So you can see why they want to go.
I don't know what L'Equipe are calculating on, because they haven't been, it's still all being negotiated.
Yeah.
I think it's really important. I would have liked to see more money actually, I hate to say this, either go to FIFA, find its way back to promote the club's game, the club game elsewhere. I can see why they didn't do that. I can also see why it is less than they actually promised initially, or they projected initially, because they've had difficulty selling this thing.
Yeah, of course.
And
rights are not.
You need to have kind of the startup mentality at this stage. Our boy Paulo Fonseca gets a 9-month ban for his confrontation with a referee last weekend at the end of Lyon's win over Brest. To make things worse, they notified him on his birthday. Why? Why do you have to be so mean?
It's just the I don't know what, the irony of the calendar or something, because the discipline committee is always on a Wednesday, and his birthday this year was on a Wednesday. So not happy birthday for Paulo Fonseca. 9-month ban. I think we said on Monday, the ban is also for the dressing room. So you can't even, it's not even like you can go to the dressing room, give your team talk, then go up in the stands, then come back down at halftime.
Right.
There would be just no access to
training ground?
Training ground he can. But is it worth keeping him? If you have a coach that can't, for all that time, okay, there will be the summer in between, but who can't actually coach on match day.
So I think this thing is with bans or suspensions, like when, Arne Slot, who we'll get to, was suspended, sent up in the stands. It's a freaking joke, right? You've got a thing.
You're on the phone all the time.
If you're gonna have bans, have them be serious bans. You can go to the stadium, but you're up in the room with a chaperone, and you can't have any communication. Yeah. That is a meaningful ban. And then you don't need to ban the guy for 9 months, because ultimately he'll still be going to the training ground and working. This is obviously grounds for our pal John Textor to fire him.
Yeah.
Should he choose to, and probably not have to pay him compensation.
Yeah.
I don't understand the 9 months. I think it would be much more meaningful. You say, all right, you can't go to the training ground, but then you make it shorter. Yeah. That would be more meaningful and have more of an impact. Because if he's preparing the team every single day, and he can't go in the dressing room, but are you going to take his phone away from him?
No, but it's still not the same when he's not.
It's not the same, but it's also like you're dragging on a long thing.
And a very long time to be without a coach. This was way back on Monday, but Juventus beat Verona 2-0 with goals from Maibok Efren Thuram, again, and Ton Kumpiners. Is Thiago Motta talking about shame having an effect? And now, by the way, they're closing down the gap with the top 3.
Yeah, so Kumpiners' goal came in garbage time. They're playing Verona, who, basically did what Verona do. They said, all right, let's go out and try to be hard to break down. And it took Juve a long time to break them down. I think they did play a little bit better, although I still don't like Randall Colomwani at center forward. I'm saying his problem is with Vlahovic, but that's just me. The Leicester Thuram, again, very good.
Yeah, very good.
But yeah, they're up there in the table, but is this team growing? That's the question Motta needs to answer. It's not going to be a home win, a labored home win, I thought, over Verona. That's going to change that.
Yeah.
Also back on Monday, Nottingham Forest knocked Ipswich Town out of the FA Cup on penalties, which means they advance to the quarterfinals. Where they'll play Brighton. Talk about a contrast in styles. It's a dream season for Nuno Espirito Santos.
They went a goal down as well at home, and both teams had made a lot of changes. It felt like B teams for both of them, really. But they came back.
So I get why Ipswich might have made a lot of changes. Forest making a lot of changes. What, because they don't want to get tired because they think they're going to make the Champions League?
Yeah, maybe. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah, and also maybe because you at home, you probably believe you can beat Ipswich with your more of the subs. And on penalties, they won it. Well done. They advanced. That Brighton Forest again would be big because it's, as we said, so open. Bournemouth playing City in another of the quarterfinals. So this is exciting from the FA Cup. Liverpool posted their accounts, which revealed they made a loss of £57 million in 23-24, which is the highest ever. Does this help to explain why the contract extension of Salah, Van Dijk, and Trent taking so long to be sorted out?
Yeah, so the reason they lost 57 million in a season in which they finished third, they didn't play Champions League football.
No, yeah.
And that kind of tells you about the gap. They would have still made a loss. It wouldn't have been as big a loss. I think it weighs into it. Fenway Sports Group try to run this club as a business. They can take a certain amount of losses, but not an enormous amount. The good news is, according to Swiss Ramble, based on the Premier League's profit and sustainability rules, which are complicated, he reckons they're 48 million pounds in profit over the last 3 years, which means that they could lose 153 million pounds this season. And remember, this season they have the Champions League money as well.
Yeah, so they can invest in the summer, basically.
So they can invest in the summer and invest. Maybe they actually still have a bit more wiggle room to give Van Dijk and Salah and Trent, what they want.
Yeah.
So let's hope if you're Liverpool, you're hoping their agents aren't listening right now and haven't worked out that they have some extra money to spend. More Liverpool. We now know what Arne Slot said to referee Michael Oliver that got him that two-match ban after the Merseyside derby.
Yeah, right. I didn't remember Everton scoring late, the Tarkovsky goal, and then there was a lot of confusion, and Slot confronted the referee, and according to the referee's report, said to him, if we don't win the league, I'll...
F-word,
blame you. Slot is disputing this, and no, that's not what I said. I said that if we don't win the title, then I would have to thank you for that. I think seeing how angry he looked at the time, I wouldn't be surprised if he said the first one. And not the second one, he got his too-much ban.
But here's the thing. So based on the report, they say, okay, we think he probably did use the F word.
Yeah.
But it doesn't materially change the fact that he needs to be banned. And I don't fully understand this.
So you wanted a longer ban? No.
What I'm saying is whether he swore at him or not, according to the report, doesn't impact whether he should get a ban.
Right. Yeah.
So even if they believe Slot's version of events, he still gets banned. And I'm wondering, okay, it's not a nice thing to do, but is this really warrant a two-match ban?
I know.
I blame you. You're costing us the league. It seems weird because anecdotally from players and stuff, referees get told a lot worse things.
Definitely. That's true. More director of football transfer talk, Gab, because Milan also are looking for one and have a short list.
Yeah, they worked out that, maybe they need, but maybe Zlatan is the boss.
Zlatan does everything. He
can't do everything himself. This is cosmetic. I thought they did kind of okay without it. They have people who negotiate. They have people who scout talent, but they're under pressure. The fans are obviously furious with Jerry Cardinale, the owner. So on the short list, it looks like it's Iglitare, who did a really good job at Lazio with a tight budget. And again, it is Lazio, and sometimes you ask questions. But the other person is Fabio Paratici, who is
we know him
coming out of his ban, former Juve, and obviously was at Spurs until he got banned.
Yeah.
I think there's some question marks about Paratici as well, and kind of who he's advising right now. The other one is Andrea Berta, who, of course, we talked about before in the context of the Arsenal job.
Yeah.
And there's also the possibility this doesn't actually happen. Because I think while Jerry Cardinale owns the club, he still owes a tremendous amount of money to the previous owner, Gordon Singer, who loaned him the money. And I think to some degree, there has to be a little bit of influence there as well. I mean, I don't know for a fact, but they said we're doing things a certain way. We're doing okay.
Yeah.
Now to change all this. So I would suspect Iglitare is in the driver's seat from what we hear. The Times reports Newcastle will talk extensions with Alexander Isak. But Jules, it seems to me they hold all the cards given his contract length.
Yeah, he's on the contract until 2028, so that's a long time. It's another 3 years on big wages for a club like Newcastle, 140k a week.
But not big wages for what Isak produces.
Exactly. Not big wages compared to other top clubs and what they pay their top earners. So this is maybe something they could look into it. I think, and we said that before, Alexander Isak is a Champions League player. If Newcastle can offer him Champions League football every season or very regularly, I think he would be happy with that. If they don't, I think he might knock at the door and say, listen, it was great, but I need to play Champions League football. And if you can't give it to me, then I'll go somewhere else.
Look, his wages are relatively low for the production. I mean, in fact, very low for that production. The fact that he's got 3 years left means were Newcastle try to move him on, they would get an enormous transfer fee.
Yeah.
And I think that has to be their thinking. He's not going to throw a strop. I don't see why Newcastle should give him just more money just because he asked for it. Because if it turned out to be a big turd, they'd still be paying him the money that they signed on the contract. So really, they hold all the cards here.
Gab, we haven't talked about Manchester United yet and their cutback. So let's go. The Guardian reports that they will likely shut down their London office.
Yeah, they live in this big building called the Kensington Building next to High Street Kensington Tube Station. I walk past there almost every day. They moved in there less than 2 years ago. And they signed a 10-year lease.
Oh, of course they did. Of course they did.
Now they're trying to get out of it. It's 23,000 square feet, which is frankly enormous.
Yeah, it's a lot of space.
And Radcliffe apparently has decided that it's too big and too expensive. I generally don't know what to say. This vibe, there's these constant cutbacks. Are you kind of nickel and diming here? I don't know. But look, if it helps save people's jobs,
absolutely.
And by the way, by save people's jobs, I don't mean Victor Lindelof. I mean staffers and stuff
proper stuff
at the club who are losing their jobs. Then then it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Speaking of United's London office, it was opened by former big boss Ed Woodward. And according to Sky News, he has been offered a job by one of our favorite multi-club mavens.
I thought this was going to be the Textor time question, actually, more than the medal, but we've done 2 John Textor's questions in here.
You're out of order. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to break continuity here. I'm going to explain a secret. If you're listening to us on the podcast, we haven't actually gotten to the John Textor medal part.
So,
although it is our second Textor reference because
but let me do this again.
Paulo Fonseca.
Where is the Textor time jingle here?
It's coming up. It's coming up.
I hear you. Yes, because John Textor, clearly charmed by Ed Woodward and the charm that Ed Woodward has offered him a place on the board of Eagle Football, which is the company that is obviously owned by John Textor, but has all the football clubs, Botafogo, Lyon, Molenbeek, etc., etc. And he must think that clearly Ed Woodward can bring value to the group. And
okay, look, a couple of things here. I know Ed Woodward is a figure of fun and hatred for a lot of Manchester United fans. I will refer you to the fact that while Ed Woodward was there, in charge, United were profitable all the time until I think his final years, which, by the way, I'm not sure Eagle Football Club, the football clubs are profitable to the same degree. So in terms of doing commercial partnerships and the stuff, I don't think anybody can fault Ed Woodward.
No.
Also, it's a different job from what he did at Manchester United, you would hope.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he made mistakes at United. I don't think it makes him absolutely worthless. Now, does he want to go and work in the world of JT John Textor?
That's the question.
I don't know. Will he have to buy a cowboy hat to do it? I don't know.
FIFA also talked about the Women's Club World Cup, not just the men, and unsurprisingly, it has been delayed.
Yeah, so you remember it's going to be in 2027. Now it's going to be in 2028. FIFA kind of says, anything we do for the men, we have to do for the women. It's a different landscape for the women.
Completely.
You need to understand that. You're already having trouble selling the Men's Club World Cup. But they've announced that they're going to have one in 2028. The interesting thing is they're going to have kind of a smaller tournament, and they're going to have play-ins that you qualify. So, which again makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I think the disparity in level in different parts of the world is much greater in the women's game even than in the men's game.
So the best of the rest will face the bigger clubs, right?
So you're going to have Oceania is going to have a play-in slot. UEFA will have 5 direct slots and 1 play-in slot.
Yeah.
And then the AFC, so that's the Asian Football Confederation, Africa, CONCACAF, and CONMEBOL, they'll have 2 direct slots and 1 play-in slot. I do wonder about all those NWSL types who talks about how NWSL, the best league in the world. Why do we just get, 2 slots? Whatever. Hey, prove to me when you go and play Barcelona and Arsenal and these teams and Chelsea, prove to me that you're better and you'll get more slots.
Exactly.
They're also doing something because I think they're a bit embarrassed, but they can do this straight away because it's easy because you can always kind of dump this in Qatar or whatever. The old version of the Club World Cup with like the continental champions, they're going to have that in the years where they don't have the big Club World Cup.
Right, okay.
They have a little one, they're going to call it a Champions Cup. And I think that is where you risk seeing kind of like the 28 to nothings, because that's just going to be the champions of each confederation. But hey, look, we'll get to see an NWSL or the other. There's a competing league as well. I don't know how they're going to choose that. We'll get to see that take on the clubs in Europe. Yeah, and then we can see if
fun.
They're putting their money where their mouth is, right? Because they do talk a very, very big game about how they think they're better than the women's teams in Europe's. France could be getting an independent regulator for football, just like Britain, if Senators Michel Savin and Laurent Lafont, were my pronunciation?
Yeah, perfect.
If they get their way. Jules, there's a perception in some parts of the world that Europe loves to regulate, and that France especially loves to regulate. Do they still have the rule in France that, like, on French radio, you have to pay like a certain percentage of French music?
Of course, to promote French songs and French music.
Okay, so I'm guessing these two dudes love regulation.
Yeah, but in this case, I think it's a long shot. And France, as you know, and French football has much bigger issues than, hey, let's bring somebody else in as well, another layer to regulate the game when we can't even find TVs and broadcasters who want to show the league.
Okay. On the one hand, that's true. On the other hand, if you were to ask me as somebody who's not French and on the outside of all this, given the difficulties and given what we saw in that Zoom call in the Ligue 1 meeting, and given the very evident conflict of interest that exists with Nasser Al-Khelaifi and the French league and Lebrun, Textor called him his poodle. I don't know if that's fair or not, but whatever. And the fact he sits on the ECA and whatever. Maybe you do need some independent regulation. Maybe you need some rules to at least regulate these conflicts of interest, right? They're talking about bringing an independent regulator here in the UK where we live, but they're not, you don't have a situation in the UK where, the people who own Comcast and Sky also own Liverpool.
That's true.
It's a different beast, right?
Yeah, completely. I just don't think the clubs. Yeah, I just don't think the clubs will allow. I think
it's not up to the clubs. It's up to the government.
But it'll be the same battle as here, though. I think.
You think Macron is too busy with other things right now?
Yeah, and even the government in place has many other things on their mind than this. The Women's Super League here in England is considering an ambitious proposal, Gabby, to grow from 12 to 16 teams starting from the 26-27 season. Do you like this?
Yeah, so basically the way it would work is from 2026-27, there would be no relegation, but there would just be promotion, so they'd be adding a team every year. The woman in charge, Doucette, I think is her name, I'm told she's very smart. On the surface, I would look at this and say, wait a minute, you have a problem where you have 3 or 4 teams that have a budget that's like 50 times the other teams. How does adding more poor teams when you got this absolute wealth disparity, how does that make your league stronger?
Yeah, better.
I'm assuming she's done her research and I want to see more detail and more data backing up the plan. They're going to vote on this. My first instinct for the women's game, the way it is right now, and you know this long, is I think actually some form of Super League expanded Champions League.
Times.
Yeah, so we don't have one team just steamrolling everybody else. That's just bad sport, whoever's playing it. It's time! It's Textor time! This is actually about a week or so ago, but still. Jules, Botafogo lost to Racing Club in the Recopa, South America's answer to the Super Cup.
That's right.
And our hero, John Textor, wasn't happy.
No, Gabby, sometimes you see the players going and collect their medals when they lost the finals, and whoever is giving their medals put them around their neck, and then they take them off because they've lost and they're sad, etc., etc. So that we've seen, right? What I think we have never seen before is somebody who got a medal and then takes it.
He didn't go to collect the medal.
No,
he was so angry that he sat in a corner and sulked. Then he came out and said, "Where's my medal?"
And then what does he do with the medal? He literally throws it into the stands because he said, "I'm not a loser. I don't want loser's medal. We lost that game. No medal for me." Which is in itself like pretty unprecedented.
And it's like somebody. So Jose Mourinho famously threw his medal in the crowd.
Yeah,
but he did it after he won.
He won
to show that I'm sharing it with the fans.
Exactly.
To the fans.
Very different dynamic and mindset. It was picked up by a Botafogo fan, who himself was like a young kid, I think he's 16 or 17, who was delighted to have the medal. But then he was not delighted by John Textor's attitude, and he said, he doesn't care about us. He only cares about Lyon. He threw his medal away. Like, this is not acceptable. So maybe JT thought it would look good for him to throw and say, I'm not a loser. Actually, it's backfired badly.
It's funny because when Mourinho did it, he's like, this is a winner's medal. You guys are winners. Let me throw the winner's medal at you. Right?
It? Like,
this is a loser's medal. I don't want it. You guys are losers, you fans. Let me throw it at you. Like, he's had a rough start. The Brazilian League hasn't started yet, but they do the local, the Rio, the Carioca Championship.
Yeah.
Botafogo have been terrible. They've won 4, lost 9, something like that. And obviously they sold players. So he needs to do some PR over there.
Yeah, massively. FIFA revealed that the 2026 World Cup final will feature a halftime show, Gabby, much like the one at the Super Bowl that we all watch. Unsurprisingly, the traditionalists don't like this.
No, just like they didn't like it when that whole global citizen thing, when like if you remember, and they did in Central Park for whatever presentation it was. Chris Martin, if you happen to be a Coldplay fan, if you're above a certain age, you may be a Coldplay fan. I don't know. He's supposedly going to pick the act. Listen, okay, I get that you don't like it, right? Because it wasn't there before. People say, "Oh, they didn't do it in 1994. What are you American thing?" Okay, but there's a lot of great innovations that come later, like the countdown to kickoff, for example, which is my favorite. No, just kidding. No, like things move on. They need to make money off it. They want to make money off it.
Yeah.
My only question would be, how long is this going to last, and how does that impact the preparation of the game? As long as you do not spoil the game, and I think
it can't last 15 minutes, right? The halftime break is 15 minutes.
Yes, and so this is the thing: if they're going to say we had special dispensation to make it half an hour, then I want the coaches to rise up.
How long is the Super Bowl? 20 minutes? All in all, longer than that?
I think it's longer. And it is an issue at the Super Bowl. But at the Super Bowl, let's face it, 32 owners, they command everything.
Yeah.
The others are a bunch of indentured servants. Football's a little bit different.
Yeah, and it's a different rhythm as well to the sport.
And a very different rhythm, because let's face it, in football, you could spend a lot of games standing around, right?
Yeah.
So while I'm not against innovation, if you do this, you pack this into 5 minutes. I don't know, maybe don't have the stage on the pitch. I don't know, do something else.
Or you have it in a corner already, so you have to set
it up. Exactly. Come in. And I hope Pitbull's involved. Pitbull seems to be involved. Now that Shakira's no longer persona non grata, like you got to wheel out Pitbull.
I agree.
I imagine our grandkids like having like some sort of AI version of Pitbull at like the 2148 World Cup.
We should be there unless something happens, but we usually cover together World Cup finals for ESPN. So I would love you and I to dance on Pitbull at halftime of the France against Italy 2026 final.
Exactly. Give me my Pitbull and we'll be good. Jules, this brings us to an end, but we got to come back on Monday because rumor has it there's some big games this weekend. So until then, love the game, love your neighbor, love yourself.